and welcome to The Current. My name is Erin Curran and I'm your hostess. The Current is a show where we like to talk about life change, shifting perspective, and sparking curiosity. I'm delighted today to welcome my guest, NASSER ROHANI, who is a retired LL Bean employee. 33 years, I think you were at
Yes.
LL Bean in the Information Services Department. So welcome, NASSER.
Thank you very much for availing this opportunity for me to be here.
Absolutely, our pleasure. Viewers will also notice my dog Decaf wandering on and off camera. So that is our group today. Welcome again.
Thank you.
I'd love to start by asking you, you are now retired with lots of time, I imagine, on your hands. What do you like to spend your time doing during your days these days?
Well, you know, this is the time, the best time of my life. You know, it's the time that I have been all my life yearning to be here, and I am now. and it is really the time of creating a legacy. Is the time that you want to see, you know, what is remembered of you in the future when you're gone. And that's what, you know, both my wife and I have decided to retire around the same time. And so we have availed ourselves for community service. We do things like going to schools and talking to the kids about America, the great opportunities that are available here, and maybe they don't know about it. You know, children around the world have issues and problems with education, with availability of resources, with food, with housing. And we here in America, we have everything.
Right.
And because we have it, we don't know about it. The very fact that we are in it, we are deprived of the knowledge. And just we try to remind them that really this is a great place to, you know, grow, to get education, to become a productive member of the community. And that's what something that really is passion of my life and to do, and we are availing ourselves with. Also, you know, many times I am a house husband. My wife is the person with a lot of resources and energy. For example, she is a registered nurse, and she does, you know, free clinic, community service, and I am home to make her feel comfortable as much as possible. And also together we go here and there with different public projects, activities. So that's how I busy myself. Before I used to work 40 hours a week, now I work 60 hours.
I love that. And that's something I often hear from people who have stopped their paying job, is that they're even busier in retirement.
Indeed.
So I think viewers will be able to relate to that.
And it is not a complaint. We really enjoy that.
Yeah.
We really love it.
Yeah, wonderful. I want to say that how I know you, how we met, is through some of these community activities that I met you and Parivash, your wife, at the Pachakacha Portland nights and the Portland Playback Theater performances, both of which I'm involved with. So it's just great to have you in the studio for a conversation, to sit down and learn more about you and your life, and maybe even how you came to be in America. You've talked about when people and children don't know that they are surrounded by all of this wealth and resources, that they can take it for granted, and that part of your mission or your passion these days is going to schools and talking about that.
Yes.
And you know that from experience.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was 18 when I left my country, Iran, to India. You know, that was, you know, any young person that wants to be on his own, moving out. So that was my passion. I went to India, and I was there till 1985.
Okay.
You know, in the year 1979, I was 22, and the revolution happened.
Yeah.
Iranian revolution, which was really, really a very brutal, very bad revolution that, you know, brought a very fanatical, you know, government to power. And because of that, many people they suffered immensely. Among them, members of the Baha'i community, where I belong, the Baha'i faith, a small religious community, which is very modern in outlook. You know, we were a target of persecution in Iran. So I realized that I cannot go back to Iran. In fact, my passport was cancelled by Iranian mission in Hyderabad, India, where I went to renew it, and they said you have to recant your faith and go back to Iran, otherwise we don't renew your passport.
Wow.
So I will show you my document that you know I had as a proof of stay in India, and then the ultimate travel to America.
Yeah.
Anyway, my wife Parivash, you know, she in the year 1979, she escaped the country after, one morning they came to her house and burned her house along 500 other Baha'i homes.
Wow.
And she had to flee the country.
Wow.
Barefoot, really. Basically, overnight, the whole life changed for them. And we, Parivash and I, met in India.
Yes.
in a social setting, and we married. And then in the year 1984, our daughter was born. And that was amazing turning point that we thought that, okay, now what? You know, either, we had no desire of, moving, or, we wanted, after our education, go back to Iran.
Yes.
But now that we have a child, we were thinking, what should we do? We have a child, we don't know how many years it will take to situation to be better for us, and we have to do something.
Right.
And we decided to leave for the West. So we actually relocated to New Delhi, the capital of India.
Yeah.
And we applied for visas to US Embassy.
Yes.
And in about 3 months, we got visa interview, and we had the interview, we got our visa, and in the year 1985, in 31st May, we landed in San Francisco, then Los Angeles.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of our life.
Wow.
That was a real turning point of our life. So
Beautiful.
that was our daughter who made us make this decision. And boy, it was such a good decision, because 40 years passed.
Yeah.
And still, had we not made that decision, we would have been in a state of limbo. We didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that story. I'd love to see that paper that you mentioned. I think this is an opportune time, because I know that there is a picture of your daughter.
Oh, sure.
On that document, and we'll show your other picture later.
This is the document that we came through. It is a Red Cross issued document that tells who we are, with the picture of my daughter. At that time, we did not really have too much resources and money. This is a group picture that I cut it off.
Yeah.
And you see that my daughter even doesn't have a shirt on. That was not because she didn't have it, but it was a group picture.
Right,
and
right.
I cut it off, and actually when I gave it to the US Embassy personnel, I remember very vividly, she had a very beautiful smile and said, cute.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now this daughter of mine and the rest of my family have turned to this.
Yeah.
And this is the graduation of my son just a few months ago.
Beautiful photo. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I love that that you explained that you actually didn't have a choice to go back to Iran because of your faith.
Yes.
You were excluded.
Yes.
If you wish to continue to practice your faith, and that you met Parivash in India, that you both came from Iran and you met in India, and
Indeed.
then and your daughter. It's amazing how life, just how life steers us. When we're in the flow, and
Yes.
you and Parivash with your daughter said, what do we do now? And where can we raise this being in safety and in freedom to practice our faith? And yeah. So tell me more. You arrived in San Francisco, Los Angeles.
Yes.
How did you end up here in Maine?
Well, Los Angeles, among Iranians is known as Tehrangeles.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because about 1 million Iranian expatriates are in Los Angeles area. And Parivash and I from the beginning had this idea that we are in America, we want to be American, no hyphenation. And we did not want to have our life begin in a subculture.
Right.
We wanted to be in a place that we can raise our families as American. So we opened the map. In those days, there was no Google or anything. So we had a big map. I said, where is the furthest place from Los Angeles? Put your finger. Really, the furthest place is Maine.
Yeah.
And that's what we decided.
Wow.
We did have some contacts in Brunswick, Maine, our friends that we contacted with, and they encouraged us to come. And we flew to Maine, and that was the best choice that we did. In a matter of a week or two, it was just upon arrival, I got a job at LL Bean. And really, I didn't know even what LL Bean was, what company it was.
Yeah.
It was just a job for me at that time.
Yeah.
But I grew with it for 33 years, and I ended with it. And it was so wonderful to work in one place among the most wonderful people.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing that you from, what did you call Los Angeles? Tehran?
Tehrangeles.
Tehrangeles, I love that. And then say the furthest point. And you did know a couple of people here, but really had to make community, I would imagine.
Indeed.
Yeah. So how do you go about, this is one of the things we love to talk about on this show, is how do you go about creating community, finding community, connecting to people? What is that like for you?
Well, you know, to me, community or even family or home, it is where your heart is.
Yeah.
Wherever your heart is, that's your community, that's your home. And really, you know, when we came to Maine, we were in need of a community.
Yeah.
Maine people did not need me.
Right.
I needed them.
Right.
And that's why I needed to take that initiative to get out and make friends. And we did that. We tried, my wife and I both tried to make friends, go out and make community and meet with the community. And we are now placed at a place that we have a large number of friends in this community, and we are so grateful for that. We are so happy about that. And to me, community is something that you seek out and look for. You know, to me, I want to give you some examples of what to me community is. You know, in Portland City Hall, when you enter these days, there is a little counter that a young man sits there with a big smile. You know, a few weeks ago, I stopped by and said, "What are you doing here? What is your job?" He said, "Well, you know, I worked in maintenance and I, injured myself. And now I'm here as a greeter. And I greet people. To me, that's community." You know, one day in the last winter, my wife, Parivash, came home, in a snowy day. And she said, "You cannot believe today, I was coming back from an appointment and I see this homeless person that I see with the card, asking for money in the corner. But on that day, I saw him with a shovel, shoveling the pathway, clearing the way of snow." And she said, "I was very impressed by that." So I went and parked at Whole Foods, walked to him, and I said, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "I saw some people have difficulty walking. I cleared the pathway for them." And Parivash says, "I asked him, where did you get the shovel? Because you don't have anything." He said, "Well, one of the businesses was getting rid of the shovels and I asked to give one to me and that's what I'm using." Well, to me, that's community. Because, when a person can be of service, can do something, no matter what resources are, that's what you create community, add to community. Of course, you are the source of creating community with Pichacha and with backstage, what is
The
it?
playback, yeah.
Theater, and I love these two efforts that you are doing. This is creating community. For me, community is that going to a restaurant and sitting with friends and chatting about life. To me, that's community.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned in the beginning that you and your wife were intentional about it, that you knew you had to put yourselves out there, even if it was uncomfortable, or you might have been afraid, you might not have had the language, maybe you already were fluent in English, I don't know, but there must have been fear for you. There must have been obstacles, you know?
Well, I tell you, when we came to America, we were disoriented very much. Just imagine, as an immigrant coming to this country, not knowing the language properly, and of course I spoke few words of English, but really my English was not good.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of mistakes, sincere mistakes in conversation.
Yeah.
Some of them are funny now that in retrospect. One day my daughter comes home and she says, "Oh, I am pooped." And I thought that, I said, "Oh my God, you're 13 years old. You should be more careful doing." And she said, "What do you mean? I am tired."
You thought she had pooped her pants.
These are the type of mistakes that as
How would you know?
English as second language person do. And I do a lot of these things. I did and I still do.
Yeah.
And sincerely, really, I'm telling you that after 40 years of trying to learn English, still,
Yeah.
if my children want to converse in English the way that they don't want mother and father understand, they can use slangs in such a way that we cannot understand them.
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. It is amazing. Yeah, that's great.
So really, that feeling that you're disoriented and you come to a community that receives you and you get a job and people treat you so well. And so many times there were instances that I felt that, oh my God, what's going to happen next? September 11 happened. And I am from that part of the world. And I was worried. I was really worried. And a few of my colleagues at work came to me and said, "Nasser, why don't you come to our home for a few days?" And that, to me, that was amazing. The feeling that, people are connected, they love for each other, because there might be some crazy people who don't know, who we are and what is our intentions.
Right.
And this person is from that part of the world.
Right.
But really, that sense of love and inclusivity that we felt in this community is immense, amazing.
Yeah.
And we are ever grateful for that.
Oh, that's beautifully said, and it warms my heart just to hear that, because it's just to hear your struggles and to see you today and to see your beautiful family and how well things have worked out for you. I wonder, you've talked about that. Some of the difficulties, coming here, certainly some of the difficulties when you were a young man, before even arriving, but also after arriving. I wonder, as you've aged and been, employed at El Bean for 33 years, in this country for almost 40 years, if there are moments that stand out to you of times when you've felt like, okay, either I go with the flow, I change, I make a decision to do something differently or to stop doing something I had been doing or embrace some new development, or I'm going to resist it and stay stuck and suffer. Is there any example that comes to mind in your life like that?
I'm so glad you asked this question, because we live right now in really a crucial time of social divide. We have a very partisan, country now.
Yeah.
Our country is so divided right now because of the politics.
Yeah.
And I believe that, we have to stick to the concept of inclusivity in every aspect. When it comes to issue of gender equality, man and woman, we have to stand for it. And that is something that we have to really stand for that. And this is something that I have come to this. This was my religious doctrine. The Baha'i faith talks about universality, universal faith, universal education, universal justice. Everything is universal. But it is a doctrine. But when it comes to action, it is something that you say rubber hits the road,
Yes.
and that's the time that really it shows the work in action. And it is the time that I see when we enter a meeting, for example, a group of people that men are sitting in one corner, women in another corner, and I say, well, this is not inclusive. We should bring inclusivity. Racial harmony. The issue of race in America is of paramount importance. And right now, more than any other time, we have to pay attention to that this disease of racism, we have to tackle that, and we have to work at it. And it cannot be tackled through finger pointing, name calling, and bickering. It is through love and inclusivity, inviting people to your home, eating food together, sitting at the same table and talking, and listening. Conversation and listening is the most important way of bridging the gaps. And for me, this is the most crucial thing right now.
Well said. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that, sometimes it's easy to fall into a mindset that, well, I'm not causing harm. I'm not saying, I'm not being racist explicitly. So I'm not part of the problem, so I'm not going to do anything about it, right? It's kind of a passive. But what you said is it's important to pay attention and to be aware and then to take action.
Exactly.
Because nothing gets healed without awareness and attention and action, right? I mean, I feel that it requires action. It
Exactly.
requires an invitation. It requires reaching out, going outside my comfort zone, being vulnerable, saying, I don't know what your experience is. Tell me.
Yes.
And I think that whole beautiful worlds open up when we're able to do that and we put ourselves out there like that, but it can be scary for people. And I think that's what keeps us separate.
Right. And really what Dr. King said, and I paraphrase, I have not memorized it, that he says in one place that my heart aches not because of the actions of those who inflicted injury on me, but on those who stayed silent and didn't say anything. And that is something painful, that really we have to be active. Being neutral doesn't work. We have to take, we have to have a philosophy and work for it, fight for it, and strive to better our community. And sometimes we do in our work and in our day-to-day life, we have circumstances that we want to reach out, but we feel that if we do that, maybe we offend someone. I would like to give you an example.
Yes.
At my work, there were 2 hearing impaired people.
Yeah.
And they were always sitting at lunchtime in a corner of cafeteria, eating together and signing. And I felt so bad that they're always in that corner together and nobody else was there. So one time I approached them. That some of the hearing impaired can talk with you and explain to you, but they don't hear. So the gentleman, I asked him, he read my lips, why are you always alone together? He said, well, people are, afraid that they may offend us. That's why they're shy to come and talk to us. And I spoke English as second language. So for me, it is like hearing impairment. I was not able to, the same problem that they had, I felt the same.
Yeah.
Many people, they did not approach me because of my accent. They were afraid that they may not understand me, or they may say something that I misunderstand them or something like that.
Right.
So I asked them, is it possible for me to sit with you and you teach me the language? Believe it or not, every day I had lunch with them, and after a while they taught me some sign language. I never forget that. I remember once it was of use. I was in Israel. I was at the Baha'i Gardens, and there were a couple of hearing impaired from New York that they wanted to go inside the garden, but the time was over. There was a visitor timing, and they couldn't go in. And they thought that because they are hearing impaired, they are not heard, they are not understood, and they were frustrated.
Yeah.
And I asked the guard, what is the problem? And they explained to me, and I translated in sign language to them. You cannot believe I felt so good.
Yeah.
They felt so good
Yeah.
that a problem was resolved.
Yeah.
Really, it is important to reach out. We are not offended if you reach out to me, and if you ask me a question, if you talk with me. Conversation is always good.
Yeah.
It bridges gaps.
Right. It all depends on our intentions.
Exactly.
Right? If our intentions are well-meaning and if we're respectful, then yeah, beautiful. I love that example. It's like how it comes around and serves us in like a spiral. You reach out and then you're able to give that away to someone else and be of
Exactly.
service to them, and it ripples out. Beautiful. NASSER, we have been sitting. I know I have this thing on the show where we sit for a while and then I start to want to shift in my seat and I want to move and stretch a little bit.
You read that from my mind. I want to move.
No. I know that it's been about halfway through the show.
Sure.
It's gone so quickly listening to your stories. I'm just delighted that you're on the show today. But I wonder if you'd be willing to do a little bit of movement with me.
Oh, sure.
I teach a movement class called NIA, and I'm a NIA black belt. It's a movement form that draws from the martial arts, the dance, and the healing arts. And so there's a movement vocabulary. So what I'd like to ask you to do for this movement break is to pick a card from the stack of cards, and then we'll stand up and I'll read the instructions and we'll do it together, and I'll invite viewers as well to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and pick a card. Perfect. Right on top.
Catching flies.
Catching flies.
Oh.
This is great. So let's stand up. And my dog Dee may get up as well. If you've been sitting at home, it feels so good to stretch and stand up. Catching flies. What does this mean? I'll read the description. Pretend you are catching flies with your hands as they buzz around the room. Follow them before you catch them. Follow the imaginary fly with your eye before you catch them. Lead your movements with your eyes to integrate your hand and your head. As you chase them, sound buzz. Buzz. As you catch them, sound gotcha. Buzz, gotcha. Catch big ones, fast ones, slow ones, slippery ones. Use both hands. So we're going to do this a little bit together. So tracking an imaginary fly, and I invite you to do this at home. Slow, maybe a slow fly. Gotcha. And then catch it. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
And by doing this, we're integrating the head and eyes and actually the whole body. Yes. What are the benefits? Why do this, NASSER? Why catch flies? Practicing catching flies increases brain activity. This move neurologically connects your hand, head, and your eyes and engenders manual dexterity and speed. Emotionally, you can use this move to express aggression, determination, anger, frustration, playfulness, and achievement. Huh? Gotcha. Ah, gotcha. So in NIA, we like to pretend, we like to play with emotions.
Oh, look at Dee. Oh, and you caught me.
Dee said, gotcha.
Gotcha.
Dee said, gotcha. 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 So yeah, she likes to play catching flies as well. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that you enjoy doing a little bit of fly catching, imaginary. You can also pretend you're catching snowflakes. It's just that flies are more dynamic. Dee's saying hello. Is that all right?
Oh, I love it.
Okay. So that's the move, catching flies. Thank you, NASSER.
Thank you.
Thank you for picking that move. And it feels good to get up and stretch a little
Oh,
bit.
sure it does.
Yeah. This brings me to another question that I have for you. You were in information services. Now, I imagine that involves computers
You're right.
and sitting.
Yes.
How do you're retired now,
Yes.
but I wonder either now or back when you were working all throughout the week, how do you find balance with your sitting and moving? How do you find balance to maintain a healthy body, mind?
Well, the company that I worked is an outdoor company.
Yeah, LLB.
And really, they have thought about all these, and they have created some work balance. For example, inside every facility, they have a fitness room.
Oh,
and
wow.
they encourage people to break away and do some walk, run, I don't know, weightlifting and different things. And I remember almost every day at lunchtime, I would take a break doing some exercise.
Nice.
And there is a shower, so we don't really be offensive to, to our colleagues, and get back to work. Also, I would like to tell you that really being coming from where I come from, I was not a kind of outdoorsy person.
Yeah.
And it is a culture that the company and state of Maine has provided. Maine is the place of, being out country, going to the woods, walking, hiking, and enjoying the nature. And that is a culture.
Yeah.
And culture is something that you gain and get and you stick to. And in the years, I got it. Now that I have retired, I really cannot get away from it. I love to do something outdoorsy. In olden days, in my childhood, I remember the biggest thing was going for shopping. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
But today, when we go traveling, the biggest thing is what are the places that you can go out and walk or bike.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we do. And really, it has helped me to stay healthier, because I was not healthy when I came to America, really physically. I remember that when first time I shoveled, I almost passed out.
Wow.
And it was hard. Physically, my body was not acclimated to, harder work. And in the past 4 years that I am here, it has helped me to, physically be more, fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that you talked about that as part of the Maine culture.
It is the Maine culture, yes.
It's one of those things that if you live other places, you notice when you come to Maine, but I don't know if you live all your life in Maine, if you'd see it really as part of the culture. So it's sort of interesting to think about, like you said in the beginning of our conversation, going to schools and talking to children about all the gifts of being born and educated and raised in America that you may not realize because you are born here and you don't know anything different.
In reality, I should tell you that the first few years of my life in Maine, every spring around March, April, I would get depressed because of long winter and longer nights. And I was asking myself, what Mainers do that they don't get sick of winter? And I asked people, and they would say simply that you just play, you go out and play. Snow is, for me it was formidable, it was hard. Snow is cold, it is cumbersome, but for Maine, it is a blessing. When you have snow, you go out and play.
Right.
And that's what, I bought cross-country skis, snowshoes, and I'm praying for some snow to come to hit out and do some outdoor stuff.
Right. That's a great example of making friends with something that is scary.
Exactly.
You know, like we talked about before. Oh, those people are in the corner. I don't know if I should approach them. Or snow is cold and I'm not used to it and it's different and new. But it's like, well, if I put on enough clothing and have the right, snowshoes or equipment, I can have fun in the snow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an attitude adjustment.
It is attitude adjustment.
Yeah, which I think all of life and happiness boils down to attitude adjustment. Yeah.
I would like to tell you about this attitude of adjustment.
Yeah.
You know, culture is something that is really ingrained in every community. Mm-hmm. Communities have cultures. Mm-hmm. But you know, I, as a person of, again, about my religious background,
Yeah.
Baha'i faith, the Baha'i faith talks about a culture of change. We must create a culture of change. And for the first time when you hear that, you say, what is the meaning of culture of change?
Yeah.
Because it is oxymoron.
Right.
Culture is something that is unchangeable, but
Right.
you should have a culture of change. It means that you really need to make it as a culture that you must be adaptive to whatever circumstance, environment you are in. You must be prepared to change. And that's something that we really have to train ourselves to be ready that whenever we have circumstances that are, hard for us, we have to adjust ourselves.
Yeah.
Change is inseparable part of life.
Yeah.
Evolution is a part of our life, and we need to evolve and change for good. For
Yeah.
good, we have to change,
Yeah.
and we have to be ready for that.
Yes, I love that. And I think it's a real, it's one of my guiding themes of this show, the current, because you think of the water current flowing. Life is full of change, and being in the flow is the way to embrace change and progress, maybe spiritually, maybe learn something new, make new friends, and have a new experience. Because what are we here on earth to do besides grow?
Yes.
I think we're here to grow.
Exactly.
And to learn to be better friends and to love better, and then our time is up.
Exactly. And we should be ready to learn new things.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a few things about when I came to America. There are even, the expressions,
Yeah.
body language in every country is different.
Yes.
I have to tell you, maybe during this conversation you see that I cannot have direct eye contact with you because it's a cultural thing. In the East, when we want to respect a person, our head is down most of the time. And you may think that it is a matter of disrespect. I have to train myself to look at you in that.
Yeah. You've trained yourself well, because I feel
I hope so.
I feel your attention and your eye contact. So yeah.
I have to tell you another story at my work. One time in the office, I wanted to have one of our admins to do some paperwork. I had some papers to give her for copying or something. So I said, I called her and said, come here. Come here.
Yeah.
And she turned back to me and says, bye-bye. And for me, it was totally shock. I said, I felt offended that she didn't respond to me to come. So I went to somebody and said, what happened to her? She didn't come. And she said, what did you say? I said, come here. She says, that's bye-bye. You have to do this. So this very simple, gesture, sometimes misunderstandings come, and we must be ready to take those risks of taking, even misunderstanding, but again, communication.
Right.
To make the wrong right and go back and apologize and make the circumstance that you have created corrected.
I love what you just shared, because you could have interpreted her saying bye-bye as mocking you or saying, I'm not going to follow what he says. and made that assumption, that would have been an assumption that you made based on your information, and then taken it personally. She was insulting me, and then not asked for help, not asked to clarify, not continued the conversation. And all those things, I feel like for me, when I'm doing it, when I'm making assumptions, taking things personally, not asking for help or getting another opinion, an outside objective opinion, then I know those are red flags, that I'm probably in trouble and misreading and causing my own suffering again.
Exactly.
You know? So it's so important to talk to people and clarify. And did you mean this? That hurt me. That hurt my feelings, you know? And most likely the person will say, no, I thought you were saying goodbye, you know? So beautiful. What a great example. I wonder if we talk a little bit about, we've talked already about your Baha'i faith and your spirituality. I'm sure that for me, listening to you already, that touches on community, that touches on your, philosophy of life, this culture of change you've talked about. I think that spirituality is something that maybe sometimes people feel a little, either they have a religion, that a church or a synagogue or something, a place they go to worship, and other people are very sort of anti-religious. Talk about that divide we have. Spirituality is one of those words that sort of can be a crossover word. Someone may consider themselves spiritual but not religious. And I wonder, you've talked already about this, so maybe we've said enough, but is there anything in your faith that you want to share, in addition to all you have shared, about how you maintain your spiritual health and your maintain this attitude of willingness to change and adapt that you've so beautifully illustrated through your life experience?
Yeah. One thing that is, I should really emphasize is that people are generally good. Most people, all people are generally good people, and we need to look at that, that goodness of people. Yeah. And every good person has beautiful ideals. Ideals are lofty, and every one of us do have that. But it is the matter of spirituality and faith that cements those ideals. Because when I have an ideal, for example, the concept of oneness of human race, I believe that all mankind are one. But when I cement it with my faith belief, then it will give me the push to go step out and make that friendship. So it is good to have ideals, and it is wonderful, and everybody does have ideals. I do believe that there is a difference between faith and spirituality and religion. It is possible that you are a very religious person, but not spiritual, or vice versa. So to me, it really doesn't matter. Faith is a current, and being a religious is snapshot, that every Sunday you go to church or to temple and ring the bell and say Om and something, and the rest of the week you are whoever you are. That continuation of that practice of religion becomes spirituality. So a religion that doesn't impact my day-to-day life, doesn't make me a better person, may not be a right one. It should not be a right thing, a practice for me. A practice that is influencing my day-to-day activity, that's what should be looked into. And I do respect those who say that we are spiritual. Everybody must be, because we really are spiritual beings. Every one of us are spiritual being.
Yeah. And I think from my own life experience, when I am not acknowledging that, and for a long time I didn't, then I suffer. Because there's something missing in my life. There's something missing. And I think I have these thoughts like, well, I should be okay on my own. Or I should fill in the blank. I should be able to do this on my own. I look out there and I compare myself and I think, why aren't I there, you know? But I'm not asking for help and I'm not, you know? So I think spirituality and bringing this faith home, I love what you said about faith as a current and religion as a snapshot. That's so well put. It's being part of community, coming back to community and putting into practice these ideals that you spoke of so beautifully. Wow. I wonder if there's anything that we haven't talked about, because we've talked and touched on many different things, that you'd like to say to whoever's watching. It's an open-ended question.
Yes. You know, we touched based on this topic that, you know, we have a beautiful country.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful community. We have a beautiful state. Let's get together and make it even better. We are a united community. We have different values and ideas, and that's beautiful, that's good, that's diversity. You know, it's just like, you know, we have so many, if different diverse communities have different foods, music, dances, cultures, and poetry. We put them all together and make it richer. We have a very rich country. There are not many places like America that are so diverse, to have so many different ethnics in different, you know, in one place. You know, I'm from Iran and the whole country is homogeneous. India, to most part, is very homogeneous, but America is diverse, and that diversity makes it more beautiful. It is a rose garden that doesn't have all red roses or blue roses. It has some blue, some red, some white, some yellow. It's just beautiful. Let's make it more beautiful and keep it beautiful.
Oh, thank you for that message, NASSER, and for being on the show today.
Thank you.
I really got a lot out of speaking with you and being in your energy, and I hope it's been an enjoyable experience for you as well, and that maybe we'll have Parivash on the show down the line, because I know she would have loved to be here too with you. So thank you for all the service that you do in community and for taking the time to speak with us today on The Current. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in to The Current. And I'll put some links under the show so that you can learn more about some of the topics that we've touched on. Until next time, be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.